spread my word in public forums. I would do just about anything for them. Defend you from all enemies, domestic and foreign. Tyranny is not only reigning, but in fact you know it's pouring out. Injustice is ignoring, all the people are left torn. It's not so easy in this world to see the devils without horns, but let's face it, time is wasted, tails are chased without reform. So don't vote them fuckers in, show them all the door. Not just talking about Republicans, but all of them, of course.
What's up? Open Site here. This is gonna be another segment of like story time with Open Site, right? Story time with Rob. That's not the official name of it. I'm not sure what I'm gonna name it yet, but that's kind of what I'm jokingly calling it, and I'm not centering the camera. Yeah, that's weird because the camera's all crooked now, but on the screen that's what looks like his center. So anyway, I already told this story that I'm going to tell today. I had some technical difficulties. In fact, you'll probably hear me mention that in some of the other videos, or one of the other videos anyways. If you watch the channel, there's probably 4 or 5 of you that do, which that's cool. You know, I kind of do these for myself and not really for the audience, obviously, or I wouldn't do them. But I'm getting sidetracked, as I always do. Anyway, this story, well, I'll just get right into it. I used to live in Buffalo, New York, kind of a higher crime rated place. They were just ranked the 4th poorest city in the nation. And actually, that's an improvement because I know some years ago they were 3rd, and I guess at one point they were 2nd on that list. So, you know, 4th poorest is an improvement. When I lived there, during the 2nd and 3rd poorest times, I actually lived, my last house there was in a suburb, a place called Cheektowaga. Cheektowaga is kind of a middle class suburb. They have some really nice houses in Cheektowaga, some very expensive houses, especially for the area. Well, mostly I think it's like a middle class place. But where I lived was right on the border to Buffalo. And not only was it on the border to Buffalo, but it was on the border to another suburb called Amherst. So I literally lived just half a block from the intersection, which kind of separated all 3 of those towns and cities. And I lived right on a main road. It was like a commercial area. I didn't live on a residential street. I lived in an apartment that was behind a business, right on a very commercial road. In fact, one of the main roads through Cheektowaga. So in front of, like, right on my street is all businesses, brick buildings, concrete buildings, you know, grocery stores, you name it, tanning salon, a gym, whatever. None of these places are 24-hour businesses, though. So come, 8, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, basically all the lights are off. The street's pretty dark. There's street lights. But, it's no businesses lit up at night or whatever. So, if you go in front of, now if you go just on the very next street over, like when you go out the front door of the business that I live behind, and then you go up one block, one street, and you go down that street, very nice, I would say upper middle class houses, $250,000 houses. At least, $350,000 houses. And then that continued for a few streets. If you go a little bit to the right, it was more middle class. The street right behind me was I wouldn't say low income housing, but cheaper apartments. And then if you went out of my backyard and you went to the street behind me, that's the one I'm talking about now. And then you kept going that way for 10 streets, you're in the hood. Literally, just the ghetto, whatever you want to call it. That's where you were, 10 streets behind my house. So the reason I say that is because although where I lived was maybe not like a really high crime area. With that said, you would get a real big mix of people being right on the main street in kind of this melting pot, area. So, we used to have things, a couple times we had things stolen from the yard. We had, a couple times we had people coming in right into our yard. We had some weirdos, people, we had a couple dogs, and sometimes you get people messing with your dogs and just annoying things like that. Because of that, I made sure that there was a fence all around the place, and there wasn't a gate on there when we moved. The owner was basically like a slumlord. We didn't know that at the time, obviously, when you moved in there. Seems like a nice guy and everything. And he had the gate, and he was always, I'm going to put the gate on, but I didn't want to wait around. So I put the gate on, I put a lock on it. And we had a couple dogs, security, the typical, home security type of dogs that you would think of. But they're friendly, but they're supposed to scare people away with their looks, I guess, more than anything. So I'm just giving that background information to kind of, give you the setting of where we lived. Anyway, what ended up happening is one day, to get into the story, it was the night of my best friend's wedding, actually. So we had a good time at the wedding. I was actually in the wedding, so I didn't get to drink as much as I probably normally would have at a wedding. But I had a good time. I was feeling good. Came home, was feeling good and everything. And, I had like a buzz. I wasn't like hammered or anything. I wasn't really drunk. But I was a little buzzed, just where where you start feeling warm and all that. You start feeling, good. You're just starting to feel it. That's where I was at. And actually, we got home, and this was like an hour or hour and a half after, we got home from the wedding, and we're about to go to bed. We came home. There was just like some things we had to do before bed or whatever. And my son was sleeping, and my mother was staying with us at the time, and she was staying in what was supposed to be my son's room. So my son was in our room with us, and he was sleeping, and me and my wife were just about to get into bed, and we hear like, on the window, and we're like, what is that? Like, is somebody visiting us? Like, who the hell is tapping on the window at this time of night, right? Now, like I said, I lived in a commercial area, so it was pretty dark, but the business next door to us had a security system with motion lights and cameras and all that. So the motion light comes on, and we're looking out the window. We don't see anything, out the window. We're not like right up to the window looking. We're just standing where we were, when we heard the noise, and we look over at the window and don't see nothing. But we're like listening, like, what is that? I don't know if it's an animal, is it like a friggin', I don't know, a cat or something jump up onto the window. So, what it was, our two windows, we had two windows in our bedroom together, and then next to those was another window, but you couldn't see it from inside of our bedroom. It belonged to the room next door, which was like a storage room, which was actually part of the business. So we had to go out of our front door to get into that storage room. So anyway, we can't see out the window, so we don't know what the noise is. It actually sounded like it was right on our window, but when we looked, we could see nothing was there. So it's not our window; it's the window next to it. But sure enough, we're standing there listening for a minute, and then we see two figures come walking in front of our window. Now we're like, oh, like, who are these people? So we just stand there like kind of frozen for a minute, and we're listening and looking to see what they're doing. And I'm looking over here because I have two windows in my room now, so I'm kind of like picturing it again. And we're standing there and we're like, trying to listen and see what they're doing. And then you see them, they're like grabbing the window, because we could see them because it was dark in our room. The motion light had came out in the little alley in between, where we lived in the business next door. So, you could see their silhouettes. And they're like, feeling on the window and tapping and, and they're like, what about right here? You know, we could hear them. You know, old. These are like really old. You know, wooden windows. Wooden window frames with the really thin glass. I mean, we could hear everything that they're saying and everything. They're like, what about right here? Is this good? And I'm like, oh, these people are about to break in, So I look at my wife like, you always think about, especially like me, I'm always prepared. I think about what am I going to do in that situation if that ever happens. Well, I'll tell you, I don't know if it was because, I was feeling good, had a couple drinks, Like I said, I wasn't, really drunk or anything, but, still, what they say about drunk driving, it still impairs your judgment or slows your judgment down, even just a little bit. So I don't know, if that came into play or what, but I'm like, what should I do? And I look at my wife and she's like, go get him, and she was like really like panicked, because it seems like they're about to come through our bedroom windows into our house, right? I don't know if they're planning on robbing the place or they probably didn't even realize there was a residence behind the business. They probably were going to break into the business and see what they could steal or whatever. That's, what I thought. But, so I'm like, oh, geez, what should I do? And then, when something like that happens, at least for me, like the first thought isn't immediately like, call the police, because the first thought is like, react because, you don't really get a really good response time in Buffalo for the police. Sometimes you call them, and I remember the people who lived upstairs from us at one apartment we had some boy harassing them, and I remember they called the police because he was outside their window one day and we lived downstairs, they lived upstairs, he was like throwing rocks up to their window, and it took them like 2 hours to respond. Like by the time they came, they're like, why'd you bother coming? Like, he's gone. He's been gone for an hour and a half now. We called you guys 2 hours ago. But anyway, the response time in Cheektowaga is a little bit better, but it's still not necessarily great. So, I'm like, I don't know, should I just go out there and see what the hell these guys are doing? And I had my my Sega AK and my 870 shotgun were sitting right there, right against the wall, and I'm like, oh man, like, should I grab a gun and go out there? I didn't have any handguns because a handgun really would have been ideal because I could have had it in my pocket or whatever, and went out there and seen what the guys were up to, and if they were just some kids goofing around or whatever, they would have never had to know that I had a firearm. But in New York, it's not as easy to get a firearm. I didn't have a permit for one, so it's not as easy legally. It's super easy legally, but illegally, that was kind of all jumbled together, that word. But so if I go out there with like my friggin' shotgun, everybody's gonna know it, And actually, where I lived, I was always really worried about home invasions where I lived there because there really was no neighbors. All the neighbors were businesses. So even during the day, nobody would have ever heard us screaming. But at night, really nobody would have heard us screaming. I mean, there was nobody to hear us. Even behind us, which was a residential street, on the street behind us, back there was like we had a really big backyard, and then the houses on that street had really big backyards, and then even still there was what do you call it? Like cinder block storage units in between, like where our house is and their house. So there wasn't even a line of sight from like our back window to their back windows, So anyway, I'm like, well, probably nobody will see me. I'll just grab a gun, and then I'm looking at them. Which one should I grab? It's kind of funny because I think about it now, and I was like, I laughed at. I was debating which gun should I grab. That that was actually slowing me down somewhat. But even still, like as I'm explaining this, it probably sounds like a lot of time had gone by, but in reality, all of these decisions were made within probably a minute. There were like split second things, and I look like everything just happened fast. But as I explain it, it seems a little longer. So I ended up grabbing. I remember thinking, well, maybe, you know, a 7.62, you know, AK-47 bullet is a little more dangerous. You know, it might go somewhere that I don't intend it to go, even though I lived in a commercial area or whatever. So I better just play it safe and grab the shotgun. Plus, everybody always says like, "Oh well, it's a pump action 12 gauge is scary," you know, and all that'll just scare them away, right? Shotgun Joe Biden, you know, says you can go out onto your porch and fire off 2 shots from a 12 gauge double barrel and scare the bad guys away. They'll just run away if you do that. Well, you know, this was years ago. This was before Joe Biden said that. But I kind of believe that too. You hear that a lot. And so that's what I was thinking. You know, so I'm going to grab my 12 gauge pump and go out there and I'm going to scare these guys away, right? I don't know what they're up to, but they're at least trying to steal stuff from us, at least anyways. As I'm grabbing the gun, you know, we're still keeping an eye on the silhouettes in the window. And you can see them climb onto the roof because the roof was only as high as the ceiling. So I guess the typical ceiling is like 7 or 8 feet. You know, the roof was only a foot or something higher than that because, you know, it was just a 1-story building and it had a flat top as a business. So it had a flat roof. And so, you know, they used the windowsill to climb onto the roof. Now, like I mentioned that fence earlier, like the yard was totally fenced in because I realized after the fact that like whoever had been stealing stuff from my yard, like the yard was fenced in and I had a lock on the gate and the lock was never like broken or anything anytime anything was missing. And I realized after the fact most of the yard had like a 7-foot fence going all the way around it. Some of the fence had like I don't know what the regular height is for like one section of it was only, you know, 4 or 5 feet, however tall the fence is, I'm not sure. Just your normal fence height. But that was only on one side, and that was in, like, connected to the parking lot of another business with cameras. So I thought about it after the fact, and actually, probably the easiest way to get into the yard was probably not to climb the fence because a lot of the fence was, like, older, and even though it was up and it was sturdy, it didn't really have, like, support on top, so it was kind of one of those fences where you try to climb it, and the whole thing's, like, sagging down, and it's, like, if you ever climbed a fence like that, you know what I'm talking about. It's kind of a pain in the ass. So I thought about it. I was like, it's probably easier to get into the yard, actually just go over the building, the top of the building. So anyway, yeah, I grabbed the gun, and now they're climbing up. Now, as they're climbing up, I see like their feet going up the wind, you know, through the silhouettes of the window. I have the gun, and I'm heading toward the door. So I get to the side door, which lets me out to the backyard. That was the main door we used because it, again, is behind a business, and the front door would go through the business. And so we just, rather than doing that, we just always go out the side door. It lets me out of the backyard. So I get to the side door, and now I don't know where they are because I can't see them no more. They're up on the roof. I don't hear them up there. So I'm kind of standing there, and I'm thinking, should I like sneak out here and try to find them before they do whatever it is they're doing, or should I go out here loud and slam the screen door, let the screen door slam, and then they'll know that I'm here, and maybe they'll just get scared off, you know, like as soon as they hear the door slam. But I'm thinking about it, and I don't know what these guys are up to or what they're doing. So I decide, you know, let me go out here quiet, because if I go out here and slam the door and you know, to my left is the backyard and to my right is like an alley, a dark alley where, again, the slumlord was supposed to put a spotlight in that alley, and he never did. You know, like this business where we lived was right next door, really close, like within 10 feet of another business, and because of that, and that's how we would lead out to like the street. You know, that's where we would come out the door and then go turn right and walk through the little alley to the street. You know, it gets real dark in there at night because of the close walls, you know, tall close walls run together, you know, like any alley, right? And if we go left, the alley goes for a little bit, a couple feet, but then it opens up into the backyard. So I'm thinking, if I go open the door and go out there loud, and one of them is on my left and one of them is on my right, first of all, I'm surrounded. You know, the one of them be behind me, it just won't be good. I don't know if they have guns, knives, clubs. I don't know what they're even doing back here, right? So I certainly don't want to be surrounded by them. And then on top of that too, like I have I have a firearm, but it's a long gun. So, I don't want to get into a struggle with somebody with a long gun. Like on the positive side, they can't turn it against me, but on the negative side, if we're fighting over it, it's basically, we might as well be fighting over a broom, right? So anyway, I decided to sneak out there. And I sneak, and I remember I turn left, and I go in the yard, and I look, and I don't see them, but it's really pitch black back there, and I had a light, but I didn't want to, like alert them, so I was kind of using the light, but, like turn it off for a second, look, and then turn it off, and I'm like, where the hell did they go, right? And I'm looking on the other side, and I can't see them. And I know that the gate is locked. I can look down there and see the gate because there's street lights on it. It's dark where I am, but there's street lights on the street. So looking through the gate, you're like looking through to where there's light, I can see the silhouette of the gate is still closed. I'm like, where the hell did they go? I'm standing there for a minute, and then I'm about to go back in. And I turn back around to go back in. And when I turn around, I see them standing on the roof still, but they're no longer like on the roof to my apartment. They're like in the front of the building over where the business would be. So I'm standing there looking at them for a minute. I'm like, what are these guys doing? And I'm trying to like listen and see if I can figure out anything that they're doing. I can't really hear them. They're over there and they're whispering, So I'm like, I'm expecting that my presence. Another thing is, as soon as I see them, I realize that they're like young. They're 17, 18, 19, maybe 20. I wouldn't say that they're any older than 20. Somewhere between 17 and 20. So they're young men, and they're like, they look like little rich kids. To be honest, take that how you will, whatever. But that's what they look like. So I'm looking at them, and I'm like, just my presence here is probably going to scare them. So I'm like, hey. And they look over, and they look at me. And I thought as soon as I say, like, hey, and I'm standing here, I got a freaking shotgun in my hands, right? I'm thinking they're going to be like, oh, let's get out of here, like somebody's here, no. That's not what happened at all. So I say, hey. And they look, and they're standing there, and I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, why? What are you doing up there? And because at this point I'm thinking that they're, maybe their kids are just messing around, right? Because they look young and everything. And I don't know if they're trying to roof hop. With that roof, you can't really jump to the next roof. I mean, you could if you were really athletic. And I know a lot of kids that used to do that, so that's why I thought of that. But I'm like, they're going to kill themselves trying to jump over to this roof if that's what they're doing, because looking at them, I'm thinking maybe that's what they're doing. But, and now I should also mention my guard went down. Now that I see them, they're young-looking people, young-looking little rich kids, and I'm like 26 at the time this is happening, 27. I'm my guard goes down, I'm not really worried about them no more. I just want to get them off my roof now. So, but I didn't know that when I came out here, so I already have the shotgun, right? So I'm like, get off my roof, what are you doing up there? Are you guys crazy? Get down from there, And it's kind of just like that, like I'm just shooing away pesky kids right now, right? Well, when I start telling them to get off my roof, there's one kid, he's right on the edge of the roof. So I can see him good. I can see his whole body minus like his feet, right? Maybe his like shins at his feet, but I can see the rest of him. There's another one, and he's set back a little bit off the roof. So the edge of the house is like covering up like everything on him from like his chest down. It's covered. I can't see anything. I can't see his hands. Can't see anything. So I'm looking up at them, and I'm like, get out of here, whatever. And the kid on the edge that I could see well, he's just staring at me, and he's not saying anything. But the other kid, he starts like whispering, and then to that kid, and that kid looked back, and then they start saying something, and then they're looking at me, and then I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't seem like kids roof hopping anymore. I start thinking they're up to something. What are they doing? And now I start to get a little worried because I can't see this other kid. And the other thing is, like, when you were 17 or whatever and you're doing a little trouble, some guy comes out of his house with a shotgun. And they didn't look like hardened criminals or nothing that would be, tough or, used to that type of thing, I guess, if there is such a thing. So it was very weird that they didn't, like, react the way they reacted when they seen me. But it was dark, So the first thing I thought was, well, maybe they didn't realize what I had was a shotgun. Maybe they thought I had a pipe or something. I don't know, because it was dark in there. It's not like pitch black, but it was kind of dark, But now they're making me nervous because they're not, they're clearly planning something. They're discussing what they're going to do. And it doesn't seem like part of that discussion is like, let's get out of here. It seems like they're getting ready to make some kind of move. But the thing of it was, I don't know what they were thinking, because they couldn't get to me because they're on the roof. They got to get down, right? I'm already down here. I got them lined up. Like, I mean, they really couldn't do anything. They wouldn't have been able to get down off the roof fast enough to do anything to me. So I don't know if maybe they had a gun. Maybe they were thinking they could shoot me from the roof, maybe. That would be probably, unless they're ninjas or something. They can throw knives. That was the only way that really they could have got me. Because they couldn't have got to me fast enough to jump me before I could have shot them. So I don't know what they were thinking or what they were planning. But they were clearly planning something. They were talking about what they were going to do. But I couldn't make it out. They were whispering to each other. And they weren't super close to me either. They were, probably... I'm standing here and they're 15, 20 feet that way and up on the roof. So, I couldn't hear anything they were saying. So I'm like, what are you guys talking about? Like, get the hell out of here. And then I start going off. I'm getting, like, more animated. I'm trying to scare them. I'm trying to, like, get them the hell out of here. And they're not saying anything to me. That was also kind of weird. It's not like they were like, oh, we're sorry, we're going to get out of here. They weren't saying anything. And he's still just staring at me. He's just like, blink, staring at me. And the other guy still, talking in his ear, and then he kind of looked at him for a minute, and he, whatever. And then they look back down, and then they're both looking at me. And so I'm like, I don't know what they're doing, but this isn't good, And I don't know if they were just, like, high out of their minds, maybe. To this day, I still wonder. I don't know. But, so then I get into Shotgun Joe, right? This was before, I'm like, all right, what else can I do? My wife is in the house, and I don't know at this point. I'm thinking she probably called the cops. I don't know. And I don't know if they have a gun. I don't know what is going on. I don't know why these guys aren't leaving. So I'm like, if you guys don't get out of my yard, you think I'm playing. I'm just like going crazy. Like, you think I'm playing? Like, and trying to scare them off. And it's not working. So I'm like, okay. You guys got I'm like, I don't know. I think maybe I counted down. I don't remember, but I ended up this is like a several minute thing. This is going on for, a few minutes at least, 2-3 minutes at least, probably maybe a little longer. Those things always seem like a long time, but then they're really not as long as they seem. So I shotgun Joe it, fire a warning shot into the air. Boom. So now if there had been any question that I had a shotgun, now that's gone, right? Now it's obviously not a stick that I'm holding, a pipe or something, right? Now I'm expecting, I didn't even want to do that because I'm in a residential area. Not only that, New York has very strict gun laws and everything. Everybody knows that. And, you're not supposed to be firing no warning shots at nobody. So I didn't want to do that. But I was kind of in a situation where, what the hell else can I do, to get these guys out of here, And when I fired it off, I thought for sure that'll be it. Just like everybody always says, like, and when you hear shotgun goes off, it's pretty loud. It's not like a rifle. It's not like a really long noise, but it's a loud boom. It's like boom. And it goes off, and they just stand there. It was like I didn't do anything. Like a total opposite reaction of what I expected. I thought they would start freaking out, and take calm down, tell me to calm down, something. Nothing. Then they start really whispering to each other. Like, now I'm like, these guys are nuts, or they're high out of their minds, or something. It was, I still don't understand it to this day. I was gonna say it was weird. It was, and it still is. It still doesn't make any sense. I don't know what the hell they were doing. I don't know if they were, gonna do maybe they knew there was I'm thinking about it now. Maybe they were gonna do a home invasion type thing. I don't know, because I don't know why the hell they weren't leaving. And why the shotgun didn't scare them off. But, I set it off. They didn't go anywhere. The conflict continued for like another 2 minutes. And I'm like, do I fire another warning shot? What is the next step here? Because I don't want to shoot them, because I wasn't in I don't know if they have a gun. If they had a gun, it would have been, if I knew that they had a gun, it would have been a very different scenario. I would have shot at them. But I don't know if they can hurt me from where they are or not. And I know that they can't physically get to me before I can do something about it. So I don't know what to do, and I don't know. I'm assuming, especially now that I fired the gun off, the police are on the way, right? Somebody on the street behind me or something must have called the police, right? So finally, I just, I decided I got to do something. So I'm like, I just basically I start charging at them, I'm like, that's it. I'm still this whole time I'm going off, I'm saying things, but it's really just an act, because I'm not really freaking out about them being there. I'm just trying to scare them the hell out of there and get them gone. So finally I'm like, that's it. And I start charging at them, with the, I got the shotgun, and I'm charging towards them. And finally they, I don't remember and I think I said something that's it, and finally when I start charging towards them, they back up and they turn around and they start walking away. But even then, they didn't run away. They were casually walking down the street, but away, across the roof. So I didn't know if they were leaving or what they were doing, because they didn't seem scared. So I'm like, what the fuck is going on? What is wrong with these kids? I was like, and I don't know if they were just high out of their minds and they were, really actually not up to any good, or if they really had bad plans. I still to this day I can't tell. I don't know. But so I end up unlocking the gate. And I go out there to see if they came down, or did they go to my backyard to come down in my backyard, because they weren't scared. They didn't run away. They walked away from where they were. So, I don't know if they were going to drop down on my backyard and then come up behind me, or were they actually leaving now? So I go out front and they come walking out from the side. So they did come down out front, but on the side, on the other side of the house. And they come walking out front, all casual, and I'm like, "What the hell are you guys doing?" And they didn't. I guess they didn't expect me to come out front, because they look over it, and now finally they were surprised looking for the first time, and to see me standing there, and it's funny because I'm right on this main commercial road. It's 1:00 in the morning or whatever. I'm standing there with my shotgun, and I had a pistol grip on it at the time, and I start charging towards them, and finally. They started jogging down the street. Actually, the one that was closest to me, the one that was staring at me, he started jogging down the street. But the one that had been whispering the whole time, that seemed like he was trying to plan something, he still was staring me down with an attitude and walking. Even still. I don't know if he's just he's kind of set of balls, the boulders, or I don't know. I think he's probably a psychopath in training. I think, they were at least planning on getting excitement from stealing stuff from the yard. I mean, they were like rich kids. They didn't need it. I'm assuming. I mean, and where they ran off to was to the streets where the bigger houses were and all that. So I assume that's probably where they live. But yeah, that guy, he still was walking. But the other kid turned around. He was like, "Come on, what are you doing?" And then finally he started jogging with them. And then they were jogging down the street. And they ran across the street. And I ran like halfway into the street. And then I stood there in the street. And I'm expecting the police to show up at this point. And they just kept on jogging. It wasn't even like running. I can't even say that they ran. But I watched them run a block away until they went into like the rich neighborhood. And then I went back in. Asked my wife if she called the police, and she said she didn't. And I was like, good. I was like, hopefully they don't come, because really, I wasn't supposed to do what I did legally. You're not supposed to fire warning shots at people, especially in that situation where it was questionable. Their behavior was very strange, and I can say, like, feeling it at the time and being there at the time, it was like 99% certainty that they were up to no good, and that they were at least planning on robbing us, I would say. Maybe worse. I don't know. I don't want to speculate, but you can't. You can't look at a judge and tell him, like, well, the way the kid was looking at me, I could tell he was a psycho. Like, that's not evidence. So I probably would have got a lot of trouble for that. But the police never came. I was amazed. Even hearing the shot, but then again, like I said, 10 streets over, that was the hood, so you would hear gunshots around there every once in a while, anyways. So that's just the way it is. But yeah, so that's one story. It would have been nice to have had a handgun at that time. But yeah, I actually think, and they never came back, so take it for what it's worth. But, that's one story that hopefully convinces you that, what I take from that story, the lesson I think that is learned from that story is, for one, you probably do need to protect your home, even if you live in a suburb, right? The biggest thing I take from that and have learned from that story is that simply presenting a firearm, because I think there's a big misconception about this, and I was a believer of it prior to this experience, but presenting a firearm does not scare a bad guy away necessarily, right? Like, maybe it's because those kids were, they weren't, like, hardened criminals or whatever, so they didn't know better. Maybe a real criminal would have known better, like, to get the hell out of, like it's over, get out of there. Maybe these kids seen too many movies. Maybe they were high, maybe they're high out of their minds. I don't know, maybe they're drunk. I don't know, but it doesn't matter, because a lot of the scenarios probably are similar to this, where just because you pull out your gun, I think and I see a lot of these comments and read a lot of these comments and all that, where people say, well, I just carry a gun. I don't carry it around in the chamber, because all you really have to do is pull it out, and the bad guy will be so scared he'll just run away. Well, this lesson has taught me that no, like, even some 17, 18-year-old rich kids, or that's what I assume they were, even kids that look like that, no, they didn't run. They weren't scared, even when I fired it. I fired a warning shot into the air. They're up on the roof, I'm firing into the air. I mean, it's kind of, you could say, not at them, but over their heads or whatever. Even though that's not what I intended to do, just because of where we're standing, that's kind of how it was. And it didn't bother them. I don't know, so imagine somebody who's really crazy and they really don't care, like a one of these crazy mass shooters or something. Imagine them. They're really not going to give a damn. A lot of those guys tend to kill themselves before you get the chance to kill them anyways. But, that's just my point. It's not like Shotgun Joe Biden said, you're not going to go out on your porch and fire 2 warning shots and scare them away necessarily. You might, and I think that does actually happen quite a bit. But a lot of time these guys, they've seen too many movies or something, and they think, it doesn't matter what you have. They're invincible, or maybe they're high, or whatever. So just let that be a lesson, and learn from my experience, I guess, and rather than paying the price from learning from your own. All right, thanks for watching.